NBA superstar Steph Curry says he doesn't believe astronauts landed on the moon. Tonight, NASA scientists call those comments out there. CBS 2's Crystal Cruz is live at USC with reaction. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, Sharon. Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, he was a guest speaker here at USC tonight. Well, these PhD students, they weren't buying any conspiracy theories.
We ever been to the moon?
Nope.
That's basketball star and Golden State Warriors Steph Curry doubting man landed on the moon.
They gonna come get us. I don't think so either. I'm conspiracy. Sorry, I don't want to start a conspiracy.
They ain't been on the moon.
You don't think so?
Mm-mm.
And they, Twitter users, did come for Curry, tweeting, "You and your peers are way too influential to be putting out these uninformed opinions." USC professor of astronautical engineering, Madhu Tonkavelu, encourages people to look at the facts.
We got rovers, we got landers, and we have tracks of people walking, and all these can be now seen using telescopes that are orbiting the moon. Unless they were done by the aliens, I can't think of any other way they'd have gotten there.
Tuesday night, USC students presented work on why we should return to the moon in front of the second man to walk on the moon, Buzz Aldrin.
50 years ago, Saturn V took 3 guys, Neil, Mike, and I, and a lander into lunar orbit.
Aldrin refused to talk Curry. However, NASA invited the basketball star to Houston to check out the evidence, including moon rocks. Martin Greco works at Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena and also offered up a tour.
We can show him how we actually done the Mars landings as well, in case, before he gets into too deep, that we didn't do those as well.
Now, Buzz did not want to comment on Curry, but when I pushed a little further, asked him again, he told me to, quote, "Go ask the Russians." I'm Crystal Cruz reporting live from USC tonight. I'll send it back to you guys in the studio. I knew you'd get a laugh out of that.
Definitely.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jake the Asshole here, and I'm sure you have all heard by now that superstar basketball player Steph Curry has came out on a podcast claiming NASA has never been to the moon and that he believes the moon landings were faked. It didn't take long for his comments to go viral, and by the very next day, every mainstream media outlet and every sporting news outlet was reporting on Steph Curry's comments about the moon landing being faked. They were going on to also vilify him and call him, quote-unquote, a conspiracy theorist. Now, after the mainstream media backlash and a huge backlash on Twitter and other social media sites, Steph Curry has now changed his tune just 24 hours later. Let's take a listen.
Looks like Steph Curry might be in for a field trip next time the Warriors play in Houston. Today, Curry said he was joking when he doubted about the astronauts landing on the moon. He said he would definitely accept NASA's invitation to tour the Johnson Space Center in Houston and educate himself. The controversy started when Curry appeared on a podcast with other players. He was questioning the Apollo moon landings. He said he kind of kept quiet in recent days as a way of protesting just how dumb the controversy became. I mentioned yesterday this Kyrie Irving did the same thing a couple years ago when he said the Earth was flat.
Yep.
And I knew he was just fooling with
But
everybody.
Curry says today he was 1,000% joking, not just 100%.
1,000,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, there you go.
Well, there you have it, folks. The media says he's not just 100% joking, he's 1,000% joking. You know, it was all just a big joke. He's a jokester. You got us, Steph Curry. But let's hear what Steph Curry has to say. You know, the words out of Steph Curry's mouth rather than the mainstream media. Let's hear that.
I have an opportunity to talk to somebody that's very well knowledge in that industry. One, to express apologies and obviously regret of how this all kind of happened. But again, the learning experience for me in terms of where hopefully I'll have that experience at the Lunar Labs and all that type of stuff would be dope. But hopefully this all gets behind us because it's very, it is what it is.
呃 Okay. Somewhere in that touchy-toothy, incoherent, borderline nonsensical response that Steph Curry just gave, I think what he was trying to say is that he's going to visit the NASA facilities in Houston the next time his team is in town to play the Rockets. I think that's what he was trying to say. Don't quote me on that. You might want to go back and replay his words and try to decipher what he's saying on your own, but that's what I gathered. I think. So at this point, I'd like to look at 3 different likely scenarios that took place with this whole Steph Curry questioning the moon landings shenanigans. The first scenario is that Steph Curry never did believe the moon landings were faked, and he was just joking all along, and the whole thing was just a big joke on everybody. That's one likely scenario. I personally don't think that is the case by the way he reacted in his response when I see him speaking to the camera about this whole charade. It doesn't seem like he was just joking the whole time. Otherwise, I think he would have conveyed that a little better. Now, the next possible scenario is that he was serious about the moon landings being faked. However, he didn't know he was going to receive such a huge backlash from the media and social media and all his peers, so maybe he wasn't quite ready for that backlash, and he decided a day later to just say he was joking and apologize and agree to take a field trip to the NASA facilities in Houston in order for everyone to just leave him alone because he's embarrassed. That's also a possible scenario. Now, the third scenario, and I believe this one to be the most likely, is that NASA and Steph Curry both participated in a publicity stunt together. That's right. To me, it looks like a well-planned, well-executed publicity stunt, where possibly Steph Curry takes a payment from NASA, and the two engage in this big act where Steph Curry goes on a podcast and questions the moon landings. Then the mainstream media over the next 24 hours all simultaneously report on Steph Curry's comments, which has NASA spokespeople then react and invite him out to do a field trip at the NASA facilities in Houston, and thus Steph Curry, within 24 hours of making his claims, then recants his statements and says he was joking, he apologizes, and that he is now going to do a field trip of the NASA facilities. This could all be just one giant publicity stunt in order to further condition the public to never question anything the government says ever, or else you will be subject to public scrutiny and humiliation, just like Steph Curry. Now, I will say this, Steph Curry is one hell of a fantastic basketball player. Having said that, all 3 of the scenarios that I just outlined for you earlier all pretty much make him look like a pile of shit. The first scenario, where he was just joking about the moon landings being faked, would mean he believes in the moon landings. That would mean he's a believer in NASA and the government. Therefore, that would make him an indoctrinated idiot and a sheep. In scenario 2, Steph Curry is serious about the moon landings being faked, but then he takes back his statements and apologizes and agrees to do a NASA field trip because he's embarrassed and he doesn't want the public scrutiny or the bad publicity. So he totally believes NASA lies, but he just doesn't want to talk about it anymore because he's embarrassed. If that's the case, that makes him a cucked out coward. That's right, Steph Curry, if you believe the moon landings were faked and you can't stand behind your own statements, and then you ran away like a little baby and took back your statements and agreed to go tour the NASA facilities, full and well believing that they never went to the moon? Well, then that makes you a cucked out coward, Steph Curry. Now let's look at scenario 3. In scenario number 3, NASA cuts Steph Curry a fat paycheck, and the two of them work together in a well-orchestrated publicity stunt. And if that's the case, that makes Steph Curry an even bigger piece of shit than I ever imagined before in the previous 2 scenarios. Either way you look at it, in all 3 scenarios, he's either an indoctrinated idiot, or a cucked out coward, or he's a sellout piece of shit who worked with the government in a publicity stunt. Either way you cut it, it doesn't look good for Mr. Curry. So Steph Curry, that's what I think of you, and that's what I think went on with this whole moon landing shenanigan business, and I'm done with you. I'm done with Steph Curry. Now, the rest of this video I'm going to dedicate to anyone who believes in the moon landings or believes in anything that NASA does. I'm going to dedicate the rest of this video to you. Alright folks, first on the list is Indian Bowtie Guy. Alright, Mr. Indian Bowtie Guy, let's see your best evidence for why you believe the moon landings were real. And go!
USC professor of astronautical engineering Madhu Tonkavelu encourages people to look at the facts.
We got rovers, we got landers, and we have tracks of people walking, and all these can be now seen using telescopes that are orbiting the moon. Unless they were done by the aliens, I can't think of any other way they'd have gotten there.
So Mr. Indian Bowtie Guy's best evidence is that we can see the rovers, landers, and tracks on the moon with telescopes, and here comes the best part, telescopes that are orbiting the moon. Can you see it with your home telescope? No, you cannot. Even if you have a really good telescope, you cannot see any rover or lander or tracks on the moon. You can zoom in as far as you can on your P900 or P1000 or P1 whenever it comes out, but you're not going to see any rover or lander or tracks. Why? Is there any telescope that any regular people can access where we can see any of the rover or the landers or the tracks? No, there's nothing. So we're stuck having to wait on an image that comes from NASA, because they're the ones who have the telescope supposedly orbiting the moon, right? So if they have a telescope that orbits the moon, you have to wait for them to show you the pictures. So that means, according to the people who landed on the moon supposedly, they're the ones who supply you with the images of their remains that are on the moon supposedly. So as long as you're willing to accept an image, a photograph from the people who claim they went to the moon, as long as you're willing to blindly take evidence from the government, then yeah, sure, they went to the moon, according to the people who say they went to the moon. And for those of you wondering what you're looking at on the screen right now, this is it. This is the big evidence that Mr. Indian Bowtie Guy was talking about. Remember, he said, we have satellites orbiting the moon that take pictures and it shows the remains, the rovers, the landers, and the tracks. Yeah, this is it. And this image comes from NASA, the people who claim that their stuff is there on the moon. So as long as you're willing to accept this photograph as being 100% legit, absolutely cannot be faked at all, as long as you're willing to accept this evidence, then sure, they went to the moon a bunch of times, man. Just not lately.
Tuesday night, USC students presented work on why we should return to the moon in front of the second man to walk on the moon, Buzz Aldrin.
50 years ago, Saturn V took 3 guys, Neil, Mike, and I, and the lander.
And the lander.
And the lander.
And the lander. Actually, Buzz, it's not called a lander. It's called a homeless tweaker shelter. I mean a lunar module. Yeah. And hey, let me ask you a question there, Buzz. I noticed that the lunar module doesn't have any windows. How did you guys see during your descent? Or did you just have computer screens inside there which showed you what the outside looked like? Did you guys have that capability in 1969? Never mind. I can't expect a straight answer out of you. You're one of the biggest shitbags who ever walked the earth. And didn't you just break down and admit to a child not too long ago that you never went to the moon?
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and we didn't go there, and... Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
And that's the way it happened. Sadly, many people give Buzz Aldrin a pass and say that he simply just misspoke. So as it stands, we can take the word from a government agent who claims he walked on the moon while being employed by the government, of course, or we can take the images as suggested by Mr. Indian Bowtie Guy, the images which show, supposedly, the leftover remains of the landers, rovers, and the tracks. Now, if this is sufficient evidence for you, you are in the wrong place. You don't belong here. I know most of my subscribers think that the evidence presented by the so-called experts is absolutely undeniably ridiculous and bullshit, for lack of a better term. The design that is guaranteed to turn heads and never go out of style can be yours to own. It's available in a hoodie as well as in women's sizes. It makes the perfect gift for anyone who knows damn well that we never went to the moon. You can order a lunar module or homeless tweaker shelter t-shirt, hoodie, or coffee mug of your very own today at teespring.com. The link will be in the description below. Peace.